Hi, my name's Dave Scragg. I'm a trombonist living in Norfolk, and apart from that I'm a bit of an amateur radio presenter. In 2007 I put an internet programme together for trombonists called Global Bones. I was helped along with it by a local trombone group called Dislocated Bones. In that programme I interviewed Andy Berriman, principal trombonist of the Halle at the time, who shared his experiences of developing focal dystonia. Now I have to admit that I hadn't heard of the condition before, but following my chat with Andy, I spoke to other experts about it and put together a 30-minute article about it. At the time, it seemed that everyone was talking in terms of focal dystonia being a neurological condition and was basically incurable. I trained as a psychotherapist some years ago, and the more I heard, the more I was convinced that there might be a psychological connection to this condition. First of all, was there a psychosomatic element? Unresolved psychological issues from the past that were creating this physical effect on the sufferer? Or could it be simply just an emotional problem? In the original programme, Dennis Weck said that he doubted that a cure for focal dystonia would come about in his lifetime. And all the time, in a back street in Madrid, Joaquin Fabra had been treating dozens of people with the condition for years, and it seemed that nobody knew. If you didn't hear that original programme on dystonia, or if you'd like to hear it again, go to www.globalbones.net and click on schedule. And you can also contact us, and we'd be particularly pleased to hear from any focal dystonia sufferers who may be able to help us in the future. In this collection of films, we'll hear the remarkable story of how Joaquin, having developed the condition himself, worked out that the cause of it was emotionally based and cured himself, and more importantly has gone on to cure many others. Here you're going to find proof that focal dystonia can be overcome, and not by Botox or any form of surgical intervention. And you know what? It's not rocket science. I'll be explaining the principles behind his work later and looking at what this means for anyone who runs the risk of developing focal dystonia. I've been fortunate enough to speak to Joaquin and also to Rob Egerton and Jim Vincent, both trombonists who developed focal dystonia in different ways, and at this moment in time are being treated by Joaquin. First of all, let's hear about Rob and Jim's initial experiences. Rob was officially diagnosed after years of struggling with the effects of an unconventional embouchure change. And Jim, on the other hand, was playing well until the pressures of an audition preparation seemed to have brought on his focal dystonia. Rob and Jim told me how they developed the condition in the first place. Rob first.
I went to music college and the trombone teacher decided to change my embouchure. Looking back with hindsight, I think it was quite an unconventional embouchure really that he changed it to. But it worked for most of my time at college, but then the last third of the final year things started to go downhill to the point where my playing completely collapsed. This is 10 years ago. So instead of going on and doing a postgrad, I came home, got a job and started to learn to play again. It showed itself first of all in the range dropping. The upper notes just got lower and lower, and dynamic. So basically you're playing top to bottom, either range wise and dynamic wise, just kind of goes, and your comfortable playing area just shrinks and shrinks and shrinks. So originally it was that. The second time round, oddly enough, it wasn't so much range. I think it was because the symptoms the second time round were a great deal of tension. So upper range was still there, but it was in the stave, that range. Basically the middle range. The lower range was all right, but the middle range, and the articulation just kind of going, duh, couldn't do it. The tongue was just like this slab of meat in my mouth, and you kind of you just lose the familiarity of how it feels to put it on your face, and a split second before you play whatever note you play, you know exactly how it feels to play it before you play it, but that recognition goes completely. It's just like you've never put it there before in your life. I had no idea what was wrong, why it had gone wrong, and I saw a couple of brass teachers and they had no idea. I saw a couple of people from British Performing Arts Medical Trust. They didn't really know either at this time. Come on then. No. And so after a couple of brass teachers, I found Chris Holding, and over a period of a couple of years he helped me basically get back playing again. I think I was able to, looking back, I do think it probably was Focal Dystonia, but under a slightly different guise to what it is now. But I think I was able to get back playing because, like I said, the I'm Sure That Failed was quite an unconventional one, and Chris kind of got me back on a more normal one, and I was able to play. So a lot of hard work. I was able to get back to. I was able to go out professionally, but there was still. I wasn't 100% happy with what I was playing and how I was playing, and but I was playing away for, I don't know, 6 years maybe, and then the last couple of years, 2 years ago. We all have bad patches, don't we? And I just felt I was going into this bad patch again, and I thought it was maybe a confidence thing rather than the actual what it turned out to be. So obviously, like we do, practiced harder, thought about it probably too much, and it got worse and worse again, to the point where again I found myself unable to play, but in a different way to before. This time it was just uncontrollable tension here. I'd go to play an F in the stave, and it would just so tight that nothing would the lips just wouldn't vibrate at all. So again, I contacted Chris again, just Holding, and I went over and saw him, and we spent a couple of hours with him, and he said, I don't want to worry you, but have you heard about something called Focal Dystonia? I went and had a session with this neurologist with BAPRAM in Manchester. Various tests heard me play, or attempting to play, and then he diagnosed it officially. He suggested all kinds of different things like changing mouthpiece, changing instruments, using a stand to take the weight of the instrument, all kinds of different things, which to be honest I tried anyway. So him diagnosing me with focal dystonia, it was a release in a way that I know what a name for it was before, when it happened 10 years ago, and nobody knew what it was. I didn't know what it was, and there is a great deal of anguish attached to it. Firstly, you can't put it consistently. You have a bad day after bad day after bad day. You can't put it down to bad days. There's obviously something wrong, and more the second time it happened, there was firstly there was a realisation that it's happening again. I thought I was over that 10 years ago. It's happening again. But then, you're out on pro gigs where someone's rung you specifically, and you're in amongst a section or on the front line or what have you, and you're thinking, can the other guys notice? Because it's really obvious to me or to anyone who has it, and you're really working hard to disguise it, and you really go introverted with your playing, and it was, even like sound checking a mic before a gig was the most terrifying, anguish-filled, thing. It's ridiculous, but the thought of you playing all by yourself and being amplified throughout wherever you were, with all the the problems you've got at that particular time, is it just makes it worse and worse. So, but it's really is a snowball effect. You kind of get a hang up, and then you think about what other people are thinking, and it's a slippery slope.